This is First Contact, Stories of the Call Center. When we talk about, things that maybe have not gone right, I'm sure you have some horror stories, right? Some things that just went really bad, whether that was with the vendor, whether that was the customer side, whether or not it was just even on your end. But you have anything that you can share as far as something that just really went south with a deployment or a situation, without naming names, where it's something you learned from, or something where you sit there and said, look, this is something that we definitely got to grow from?
I think, I think probably one of the bigger things that you can make a mistake on in this industry is trusting but not validating, right? Trusting but not verifying. And we've made these mistakes in the past, right? Where people think, oh, it's going to the cloud, so it's going to be covered. And because they emailed us a technical requirements document, my back-end guys have it and we're good, right? To me, one of the bigger earlier mistakes we made was not getting security and IT involved early enough. Now, it sounds contradictory to some of the stuff I've talked about earlier, but you have a thing that's built for the cloud. It's built to work for 1,000 different types of customers. It's pretty standardized. The fly in the ointment is always that individual client LAN, that individual client network, their security posture. So we put a lot of effort to avoiding mistakes where if the security team and the IT team need to be brought in and they say they did it, we verify that they did it. We do testing, we do procedural management, we do a lot of work to make sure that those little nuances are there, because we had one client that came to us, and after 7 weeks of poor call quality, I did every single thing under the sun to check that this thing was being done right, to the point where I paid for my own guy to go onto the client site and check their firewalls. And the day before he was scheduled to go on site, the IT guy stood up and said, we did some checking, it's working, check this. And everything worked. Everything worked. I couldn't believe it. I was in awe. And what happened was something as stupid as SIP ALG just wasn't turned off. And we've been crying about that for weeks. So we do a lot of that work. I don't want to blame IT guys in this regard, because they're often the last to know. So we put a lot of work into making them early on in the process. But these are things you have to do. You have to verify every little detail, because you're making a major shift.
Yeah, and I think that's critically important, not only for the implementation, but the experience of all involved, right? If you have a system that has poor quality, or you're having issues, all the people that are getting in the front lines that, right, are the enablers, are the managers, they're going to sit there and go like, oh my gosh, this is having problems. I don't want to deal with this, right? So the more you can do up front so that you can have those successful proof of concepts, or those testing or UATs or whatever you're doing at the beginning stages, when you start getting that experience of the system with the people that will be using it, beyond just the people that made the decision to use it, you've seen it, but you won't believe how many people out there that just like, no, we checked everything. We've looked at it all. We have it set up. We made the changes. And the two most common things we find is, one, the person that's managing the system is used to the system they're using, but they're not used to using it in a different configuration, meaning they're not really comfortable because it wasn't required. So they don't always have the knowledge at that time, or to even think about looking for those things when they bring in this other thing that they didn't really know how it was going to work with it or interact with it. So we find that often where they kind of do some research, it wastes time, and we want to do that up front so we can not have to check that box after everyone gets a poor experience, right? The other part ends up being is that the system in of itself, they just assumed it was going to work a certain way, and it should just work that way, right? So they don't actually go in and verify, like you said, what happens. And then again, you run in those scenarios, which is never fun.
They're painful, man.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine for everyone involved, other than the things I've seen and the things I hear, that companies go through when they don't have the right things in play and the right people. We always go back to buy-in. If everyone doesn't know their part, when it gets to that piece, it's easy to drop the baton or fumble it.
Absolutely.
That can the race.
Absolutely. And that's why UAT is so critical. I mean, you mentioned UAT, but it's almost passing. But UAT is so important, and having so many people involved, that it becomes a negotiation point that you have to have with the vendor. You have to negotiate in a certain level of UAT so that you can do it. And you got to remember that those vendors have teams of people that have to work with you that cost them money too. So you got to be able to do this and be efficient with this time so that they're not losing money and it winds up being an abbreviated process.